The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm just peachy.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I got coffee.
Do I have coffee? Actually, I don't. Not this morning.
You don't have coffee this morning? Oh,
no. I don't. Yeah. So for our audience, our listeners, as you know, usually I'm always drinking coffee. I'm a coffeeholic. But Jamie, this is episode 40. Let's just appreciate that moment. 40. Episode 40.
Love it.
And the title of this episode is Jolly Old England. Because in this episode, Love Sweetie Podcast is going global. So, as far as the story goes. But yes, it's Jolly Old England. And since it's Jolly Old England, because Lou's been sent to England, I decided I should drink tea this morning. So I have my
wonderful idea.
Beautiful little teacup here. I'm drinking English breakfast tea, if people are wondering. So yes, staying on theme. But these cups are actually, they're very, very special to the family. Now, they're special to my other grandmother's family. I should clarify this. This is a Spode design. I'll hold it up to the camera so people can see this, and it's glaring a little bit. But this is called Maritime Rose, which is so perfect, this design. It is a Spode. And I love that because the prairie rose is basically the state flower of Iowa. And maritime has to do with the oceans. And then it's a blue cup. But this was purchased by my mother's mother, my other grandmother. So, and I can't say that Sweetie and she had a great relationship, but we'll talk about that more when we get into the 70s. Sometime in the future. But this line was made, from what I saw online, from like 1954 to 1972. So, and I know she bought it at the beginning. So these particular cups are about 70 years old, and they're always used by family on holidays and special occasions. So I thought this was a special occasion. And she purchased it directly from a catalog from England, from the Spode Company, which has been around since the 1700s. So the only time these have ever been in use or seen the sun is when they were first made in England in the early 1950s, when they were sent over the steamer ships by crate to Millersville, Pennsylvania, where my grandmother picked them up, and they've only ever been with the family. So I have also the little saucer. There's the full design. You can see it very easily. The Maritime Rose. You know, like the little, the Christmas tree plates. They're like the tree with on the white background, and they have the little green band. This has a gold band. That's a Spode design. That's a very classic Spode design. But
and your outfit, it just matches you. Even the gold around the rims and stuff, and your gold necklace. It's all very put together. I love it.
Thank you so much. And so I thought today, since we're in England, I would use the English china that's been with the family because it's called Maritime Rose. So what better? Because we're going to start this episode with Lou. Before we do that,
we're going to hear from our little Maritime Rose.
Yes, we are. So, but before we start that letter, I just wanted to note to everybody the basics. If you're new to the Love Sweetie podcast, welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe. We hope anybody that's especially been listening to many episodes is doing that. Click that notification bell so you find out when new episodes are uploaded. For anybody new to the audience, it is every Sunday there's a new episode. Check out our website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. And then if you're listening audio only, for our audio only crowd, again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the other channels, if you could leave a review, we very much appreciate that. But without further ado, Jamie, let's cross that ocean. Let's go to England and let's catch up with Lou, who has arrived just to find out the war has been won with VE Day. So, good timing.
Yes.
Jolly old England, this 17th day of June in the year 1945. Dear Agatha, the black sheep has returned, or should I say written. I am answering promptly your letter of the 23rd of May. As you can see, it's now only the 17th of June, and I only received it on the 1st of June, so again I say promptly. Now, don't say that you know you don't mean it. I think the idea of going through the alphabet on the salutations is a good idea. I'll try to do the same. You say you're feeble-minded, in what class does that put me? Don't answer that. I'm sorry to hear that you had to leave your dawn shift friends, and you were getting along so nicely, too, but I know you'll have no trouble making new friends among you as I do. I wish I could tell you more about the English people and tours, but really I'm speechless. Imagine that. However, when I get home, I'll tell all and maybe even sell you an English green suit. Now that ought to be good. Have you been out to the farm lately? You'd better watch out for those nasty ticks. You know they can be dangerous. Especially, too, real wood ticks, you know. Ha! Me and Bermadine. Well, Abigail, tonight I am really tired, so I'll close now with a promise to do better soon. Keep on writing. I enjoy your letters very much. And take care of my sweetie for me. Love, Amos.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I do like that we have Lou's letters to Jean.
Yes.
So and it doesn't feel like kind of, it's, it's a little bit more private when it's between Lou and Sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
So these are a little more, jovial and a little bit more, happy. I really, and I would love to know the story behind the green suit reference that they constantly make to each other. It must have been a good night.
Yeah, this keeps coming up. The green reference to the green suit. It's going to keep coming up after this point. Some sort of just total inside joke that they've got going on there. Mm-hmm. But I also just love to see this relationship continue to build so much between Lou and Jean. That if he can't be there, he's glad she's there. And then we reference a couple things that are going on. Talking about the shift. So Jean's working. She's an RN. For any of our newer listeners, she's graduated from nursing school. So she's working on the wards. So she must have had an early shift and she switched to another time. And so that was probably in the content of her letter that he's referencing back there on May 23rd. I love what they mentioned, the salutation. So he says, I think the idea of going through the alphabet on the salutations is a good idea. These are for the baby notices. These are for the announcements that they're going to be doing. Okay. Yeah. So he's like going through the alphabet. I think he's concerned that they could miss someone.
Yeah.
And she's saying like, her question, we can kind of glean from his letter what she had asked him, like, who do you want to send baby announcements to? And he's like, let's just go through the alphabet and make sure nobody gets missed. So, and maybe some people occur maybe multiple times because of nicknames with everything going on with this family. And then the farm, we get a reference to the farm, which is interesting. We'll hear a little bit about this in another letter today, but I'd like to recall everybody back to the letters from January of 45 from Chester, where he was considering buying a farm. So we're hinting towards what this might be. And then just the nicknames. And for anybody who's new, he's calling her Agatha. He's signing it Amos. They use names all the time. Mm-hmm. But we know it's his letter. And the reason we know is because the original letter, we can identify his handwriting. In most cases, we actually have the original envelope. So we can see it's not being sent to Agatha at 14th Street. In this case, we did have the envelope. And she is at that address in Des Moines. And he can't, confuse the mailman, basically.
So if there was ever any question if this was Jean, it's Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't have to worry.
It's from Lou to Jean. So, but
that's good. So he got there. He's there. He said there's not much going on right now.
Right. Well, he got there at a pretty ideal time to not be engaged in combat, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's aviation machinist mate. His job is to fix planes. There are a lot of planes to be fixed, for sure, in England, because they would launch across the English Channel and go in during the war. So he's very much working when he's in England on fixing a lot of the badly damaged engines and things like that. But as far as the pressure of active combat in the European theater, that's, of course, gone at this point. So he's just over there.
I'm sure that's relieving to both him and Sweetie.
Yeah, to everybody in the family, basically.
But, so that letter was June 17th.
Right.
And our next letter is dated June 22nd, but we do have an event that occurred between these two letters that is worth noting. Yes.
Yeah, it had been mentioned in a previous episode, and there's a major battle that's concluding in the Pacific at this time, because as much as we just said, the European theater is over at this point. VE Day has been declared. The Allied forces are still fighting Japan, and the Pacific theater is extremely, extremely active still at this point. So on June 21st, 1945, the Battle of Okinawa ends. And this had been going on since April. So we mentioned this. This is a long, long battle. I do have the Des Moines Register, because now we know Sweetie's back in Iowa. I do have that headline from, I believe it's June 22nd here. So I'll bring it up on the screen so everybody can see what they saw when they woke up the next morning after the battle ended. So this was the headline on the Des Moines Register on June 22nd of 1945. And this is basically how they find out Okinawa's ended, because the cost has been tallied up. The battle ended the day before, and they're saying 6,990 dead. Well, this is the initial count of this battle. History tells us that it's actually much higher than that. But at least at the moment, when they're getting the news first domestically, that's the total that's going to the news outlets. Now, the Allied forces, to give an idea of who's fighting in here, with regards to the amount involved, this includes some British forces as well. There are some British forces, but the vast, vast majority, like extreme vast majority of this, are American forces. And the fighting is going to be 76,000 to 84,000 men engaged, somewhere in that range. So about 80,000 guys. And then of those, the casualties, and mind you, casualties mean different things when people are talking about it. When I say this number, it's because of killed, wounded, and missing taken together. So when we take it together, it's 50,000 casualties of that number, because this battle's been going on since April. When we look at the deaths within that, the number actually goes up to 12,500 thereabouts. So when this is initially reported, we can see it's 60% of the total that's later going to be studied, because this is the day after, but that number is going to go up to approximately about 12,500. When we're talking about the Japanese forces, though, the loss is even more severe. So the Japanese forces were somewhere around the range of 105 to 110,000 involved. The reports are there were about 98,000 that died. So,
oh my,
yeah.
like most. That's
Yeah.
that's a majority. Oh
Right.
goodness.
Yeah, so when we talk about the Allied forces saying, okay, 50,000 casualties overall, 12,500 dead, but the Japanese are at 98,000 dead. That's not just casualties with the wider number. And then it's hard to estimate civilian dead, but online, the information ranges anywhere from the low end of 40,000 to the high end of 150,000 civilians dead.
Civilian deaths.
Yeah, right, in Japan for the Battle of Okinawa. So, I mean, this is really the big action in the Pacific that's coming to a close here in June. At this point, so Harry Truman authorizes the use of the atomic bomb July 21st. So mind you, he's just become president in April. But Churchill and Stalin at the Potsdam Conference, which is going to be the third conference, we'll talk about that more in a later episode. That's when they find out about that it exists. So the other Allied forces are not in the know until the summer. And that's not going to come until July 17th through August 2nd. That's that conference. So we're still a little bit of ways from that. So we just have to, the reason I keep bringing this up is, as far as everybody's concerned globally outside the people who are in the know, a land invasion of Japan is coming, and the casualties are already like this at Okinawa. So we can only imagine what they'd be if they do a land invasion. So that storyline's going to change as the history progresses, but we're not there yet. We keep wondering, when are we going to get to that point where that mentality of a land invasion of Japan is going to go away? It's still not gone yet, because this is what they're waking up to in the morning. And that's really the point that I'm trying to get to, which is, in their mindset, without the benefit of hindsight, without knowing what's going to come, as far as they're concerned, they're waking up on the morning of June 22nd in Iowa and Des Moines. Gene and Sweetie are looking at this and saying, here's the next casualty rate that's coming in from the Pacific. This thing isn't over yet. So, it's just a different world that they live in. because they don't have that knowledge of what's going to be coming here. But it's a notable thing because we talked about Battle of Iwo Jima previously, and we can't leave out the conclusion of Okinawa.
And this happened, and that too, that headline came out on the day that Sweetie writes this letter, our second letter for today.
Right. Yeah, she starts writing that letter, and then that headline. Yeah, exactly. Exact same day. Yeah, she's writing. So, yeah, isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. It is. Yeah. So in this point in time, just to give it kind of like where we're at, they believe that in the European theater that the war is done, that there's no more fighting, that things are ending, and then in the Pacific theater, believing that there's going to be a land invasion.
Yeah.
And that's where they're at today. So, and that's where we find our second letter for today.
Yeah. And we do have to keep in mind one thing. Lou's safe. She still has Bob and Frank. And the question mark is, where are they? Because they've been in the Pacific. At least Frank certainly has. So, question mark, question mark, question mark. And so let's see if we can answer some of these question marks at least. Lacona, Iowa, June 22nd, 1945. Dear Jean, I'm sorry you'll not be here this weekend to do some chinning and giggling, but I also hope you'll enjoy a weekend with Marion. Give her the family greetings and all kind of stuff like that there. I'd hoped that you'd remember Chris's birthday. We did on the 20th instead of the 19th, but it didn't make a great deal of difference, for we couldn't buy anything here anyway. What did you send him? You didn't say what. We have had a lot of rain, but the folks have gone to the farm today, as they did yesterday, and so I'm enjoying my solitude and trying to write some letters. I heard about my damaged trunk today. Some encouragement, though. They did not offer any settlement, just asked values, etc. I guess it will take the duration and 6 months to get the job done. We had a letter from Bob and Florence this a.m. They sent me some stamps that they found in the coal cellar, all dirty, etc., and a few are worth anything at all, but I guess maybe Lou will enjoy going through them. They really said comparatively little, not even when Bob expects to leave Iowa City, or when he expects to arrive in Georgia. Haven't heard from Frank for quite a while, though I've owed him for quite a while, and I guess it's no wonder he doesn't write. If you can come next weekend, you will come to the new house. Daddy bought it, paid $300 down in cash, signed the contracts, and put it in your name. Maybe I shouldn't have written that, so pretend you don't know about it when the time comes? We are to move next week. I guess so the folks plan to make this the last big day at the farm for a while.
So we don't know where Frank is. They haven't heard from him for a little while. We don't know what's going on with Frank.
Specifically, yeah.
They do have his address. Yeah. And so not very much, I guess Bob is not very good at writing letters and letting you know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. We know he's in Iowa City, so he's not overseas. Remember, Florence and Bob had been in New York, and the plan had been to leave with Sweetie and go to Iowa to head home.
Yeah.
He hasn't left. It's June 22nd, so...
Yeah, he's been there for a while.
Yeah, he's been there for a little bit of time, and then he's going to Georgia. So he's staying on the eastern side of things, further from the western coast of things, closer to the Pacific. So it's looking like he may or may not have to go to Japan from these letters. But Frank, we know the last thing we heard about Frank was he was in the Pacific Theater.
So, and then we also... So the farm...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so the farm.
Yeah.
So Chester's very, very happy.
Yes.
Because he has his little farm to do his puttering.
Yep, he can putter around somewhere.
He can putter around as much as he wants. Mm-hmm. And I guess he put it in Jean's name.
Yeah, it would seem. Now, is it the farm or is it the house? I'm looking at this again. And yeah, because he's bought this house. And mind you, there's a picture of this house that does survive. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pause here for a moment. Oh, actually, when we close this out, I'll bring up the website so people know where
we'll close the house.
Let me do it that way. So They bought the house, and this is the only house that Chester will ever buy in his life. And we do have a photo of that house in Lacona, and it's where he's going to basically be moving forward with his practice, where he's going to have his dark room for the photography, and where Sweetie's staying. And then he puts it in Jean's name. Yeah, I think it's the house, the contract for the house. But $300 down in cash. So down payments in Iowa, 1945, $300. So
Nice.
that's pretty nice. Yeah. But they keep mentioning the farm.
The house was not on the farm, correct? Or it was?
No,
No.
actually, the farm is very separate, and we can put it on the map, which is what's really wonderful about the farm, because we had the mention of the farm in Lou's letter, is the farm is located a few miles away south of town. It's a different tract of land. And what's absolutely wonderful is I was talking with their old neighbors in Lacona. Lacona is a small town, and the neighbors across the street that were there remember the Demery family. They specifically remember Chester and Laura, so much so that one named their son Chester after Chester. And after the Demerys were gone, because only Chester and Laura are in Lacona, and once they're gone, the Demerys are well remembered. You go to elementary school and your school doctor is Chester. And so
No, I cannot imagine my
it'd
school
actually be
doctor
somewhat
being Chester.
terrifying, maybe. Yeah. So, but some of these individuals who are elementary school kids, they're still around. They still remember Dr. Demery, and so they remembered where the farm specifically is, even though it's not technically, like right now. If we look at the address, actually, on not on this envelope, but on other envelopes, it says Box 5. There's no street address on this house that he's buying. Town's too small. It's just that's where the doctor is. Farm,
That's the doctor's house.
right. Yeah. So I was always wondering, like, where is this farm? Well, as it would turn out, the people in town, they said, if you come out here, we'll take you out. They know exactly what road to go down, what path to go on to get out to the farm, which is south of town, which is a wonderful invitation. But it just shows how much they cherish the Demery family, and especially the neighbors, because what I understood was, I believe it's the neighbors across the street actually oversaw the Demery property after the Demerys were gone. So, like, even though the house, I can say, is no longer there, the house is gone, but they know everything about it, which is fantastic. So to have the one picture surviving is great, and we'll bring it up on the website. I'll open up the website when we finish this letter. But yeah, just amazing, the whole storyline there. So Jean's being invited to the new house. And Bob is on the East Coast. We're getting some updates here. Damaged trunk. That's always upsetting.
Yeah, she must have, like, so when they were traveling back to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would assume that they flew.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they stuck to Bob's plan here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have heard from Lou quite regularly. Did I tell you he has reassigned to the supercharger department, where he removes superchargers from the engines that have already been removed from the planes? They're dismantling planes to ship them home after the Limeys refused to pay the price we asked for them. Scuttlebutt says they have to be off the grounds by August 23rd. The boys he should have been with have already arrived in New York. One of Lou's friends called his wife in Attica, and she in turn called me. He's temporarily at an amphibious training station in New York, and is scared to death for fear he'll get no leave to come home, but will be shoved through amphibious training, and then shoved out to South Pacific duty. That could easily happen, and so I'm hoping Lou will escape that by staying there longer. He wrote that rumor says that all the men there now will be given leave, and then assigned to the naval activity nearest their home. He says he's going to ask for a tumwa, and on the strength of that, I've written to Mrs. Langford about our apartment with a new baby. She may say no go. We've done some packing and stuff, but nothing like we'll have to do in a hurry. But Dad can't tear himself away from the farm.
Yeah, and there's the absolute confirmation about the farm that Lou was hinting at. Chester definitely bought the farm.
He bought the farm.
Yeah.
He bought the farm. And we also know, well, which was very sweet, that a friend of Lou's was able to, like, was talk to his wife, and then his wife called Sweetie. That was very sweet to kind of give her the news. And so, and we can get from that letter too, that they are expecting a land invasion of Japan. They are expecting that the war is going to continue, and that they're going to be sending people over there.
And then we get this amazing line with some slang here that's hard to decode. They're dismantling planes to ship them home after the Limeys refused to pay the price we asked for them.
I think that the Limeys refers to the British.
That's right. It does refer to the British. So.
Oh my. Well, but yeah, okay. This is the time. This is the time period.
Yep. The Limeys. But it's not only just the British. It's the British Navy. So the Limeys are in reference to the British Navy, and the reason why is because citrus is used to ward off scurvy, right? So you get those old stories of, like, lemons and limes. for guys, to ward off scurvy on the ships. So the British Navy, of course, being, as I guess up to this point, now the American Navy today is unmatched, like anywhere in the world. But when we think about
USA, number one.
right, USA, America, yeah. But
America.
when we think about the history of the world, and we think about the dominance of England as a naval power, right? We think about all the way back to the 1600s on. The British today have, I think, the second most powerful. I mean, it makes sense. They're an island. They're still an island nation.
Yeah,
right?
you'd think they all grew up around the water. Yeah,
gotta have some dominance on the seas. It's going to be the French Navy that's going to wall them in at Yorktown. So, haha. But yeah. But the Limeys,
So
yes.
what
That's the
about
British Navy?
what about scuttlebutt?
Scuttlebutt. Let's get the definition here. I've heard this. It makes me think of the Little Mermaid, but that's not.
Scuttlebutt. That's Scuttle is the. Oh yeah, that's right. He's the seagull. So Scuttlebutt says they have to be off the ground by August 23rd. So maybe Scuttlebutt is it's so funny to say.
It's gossip. It's gossip and rumors.
It's
that
gossip
makes
and
sense
rumors.
With the Little Mermaid. Scuttle is just talking the whole time, and he talks storylines that he hears. It's probably what he's named based on. Yeah, and it's also, it refers to, it says, the drinking fountain on a ship. So
the scuttlebutt?
Yeah, the scuttlebutt. So you know what? That's kind of perfect, because if you're in an office, where's all the gossip coming from? It's always the water cooler gossip. So this is the Navy version of the water cooler.
There you go.
So
that's fun.
That's awesome. Maybe I'm going to just start calling the water cooler anytime I see it the scuttlebutt, but people won't understand.
No,
and it won't be on a ship. Nah, that won't make sense.
And then you'll be like, oh, watch episode 40 of the Love Sweetie podcast.
Right, exactly, yeah. So we get the Limeys, we get the scuttlebutt, we get some fun terms here. And then we get this story. They want to go back to Ottumwa. Like, we had it good in Ottumwa.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They did. That's where they met. That's where they got married.
Yeah, they really like Ottumwa. But you know what? The Corys aren't there anymore. I think they also have to remember they liked Ottumwa a lot because they had really good neighbors for almost the whole time for Sweetie, almost the whole time she was there. So it wouldn't be exactly the same, but I like to see this call out that they're like, she's reaching out to Mrs. Langford, who would be the landlord from Ottumwa.
Your peanuts are fine, and so are my tomatoes. No strawberries to speak of this year. But next, hives, here I come. Lou is working pretty hard now, and he doesn't write quite as often as he did. He always scolds himself for not having written to the Gem better, but I gather from his mom's letters that he doesn't write very well to them either. I'd kinda hate to have him see me so fat, but I'd give everything I own to have him home, especially when we bring a new boot in for training. Did I tell you I bought some slippers from Monkey Ward's? I like them nicely. I've got to write more letters, so I'll stop now. Hope you come next weekend. Have fun with Marion, and write when you can. What you doing with all your money, Mrs. Astor? Love, Sweetie, and the folks. I'm making a baby announcement list and want to know if you have some suggestions as to whom or where.
So she's in baby mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she misses her husband.
Yeah. She's like, well, I'm making an announcement list. Hey, Lou's ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
Lou's already talking about the salutations. Sweetie, you're a little behind the times here. Jean and Lou have this worked out. out of her sight.
He's not even in this time zone.
No.
He's all the way across the ocean. He's still taking care of stuff. Aww.
Yeah. I love that she calls the baby that they're going to have a new boot.
Mm-hmm. That's cute.
Adorable.
That's cute. And I mean, let's talk about this situation is very common.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common situation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men are overseas and a lot of their women are getting ready to have babies or had a baby.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So yeah, but that's good. So we know she's doing okay. We know she's still super pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's gonna be pregnant for a while.
We think that she became pregnant probably in January.
Mm-hmm.
So does this put her she's near the end of the second trimester at this point?
Yeah, she was near the end of she started her second trimester when she was in New York.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because she wasn't feeling too good, remember?
Yeah.
And so now she's in, oh gosh, she is in Iowa in the middle of summer
Yeah.
and pregnant. Oh,
Yeah.
good Lord.
And the family's moving to a new house, and Chester.
Oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, we're going to move while we're at it. Haha.
yeah.
Welcome
Yeah.
home.
Thanks, Chester.
Pick up that bag.
Speaking of that house, let me bring up the
Yeah, bring up the house.
let's bring up the picture of the house here so people can see this. I'll speak through this as normal so our audio listeners can choose to follow along when they have a moment to do so. If you go to the Love Sweetie podcast website, and if you go to Sweetie's scrapbook, go to the photos section. And here we have right at the top, there's the Demery family photos and the Graham family photos. Now we're talking about the Demerys, so you can click either Chester's photo here where he is out puttering around. This is a puttering photo. Yep. Or we can just click here to view the album. Either way, it'll take you to the album, and we'll get to some of the history. Now, some of these Demery family photos are from the early 1900s, and they describe who everybody is. These are some of the grandparents and things. What we do have here is the house that he buys, and this is the house that they put the down payment on for $300. He had the office in town. My dad did remember where the office in town is. That little building is still there. It's falling apart right now. At least it had been. So maybe that isn't the case today. But as of April of 2023, the building he remembered as the office in town was not in good shape. And it was very, very small, extremely small location. He's going to move his office into the first floor of this building on the right. So you would walk in, and that first window on the right is going to be the doctor's office. And behind it is going to be his dark room. So I guess Laura got the other half of the first floor. Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm like, did Laura have a kitchen and a dining room? I mean,
I don't think she really had too much. Yeah, but this is where Sweetie's going to be in the middle of that hot summer.
He's like, you don't need a dining room because I've never finished those mahogany chairs.
Right. Yeah. We're going to put the chairs in this home.
Yeah, bring up the chairs.
Yeah. He's too busy puttering, doing other things. Sorry. Yeah, Kaya, wrong moment.
No, you're not. Okay. But
yeah.
But this looks like a decent sized house.
Yes.
It looks like one of those 4 rooms on the bottom, 4 rooms on the top, deals. Yeah. Did it have a bathroom?
I believe it had an outhouse.
Oh,
My dad has a whole story about that. We are sure it did not have a bathroom. It had an outhouse. And it's really just the two of them, but they know there's all these grandkids, right? He's hoping there's all these grandkids. Now, he already has, Margaret already has Chris and MA, and then granddaughter KM, and now Sweetie's pregnant. So the idea is, he'd actually mentioned in a letter, remember, he'd like to buy the farm and hope that the family would stay there for hundreds of years. He's hoping to fill these rooms, with all his little grandkids to teach them everything he knows.
All the things, yes.
Yeah, all the things. So it's really interesting, but we can get this vision of Sweetie in the Iowa summer, sweating in this heat in her second trimester. Everything's being moved around, and Chester distracted from the move because now he's got this farm to go hang out at. So
it's like, I gotta go to the farm. You don't understand. There's puttering that needs to be done. It's on the top of my list.
Yeah,
I have prioritized the puttering. I have to take a picture of this cattail.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Well, but this is what he enjoys doing. I understand.
Yeah. And then Jean's not there, remember. Jean's in Des Moines. She's got work to do. So Sweetie's writing to Jean in Des Moines, basically, come rescue me. That's the context, but yeah.
Well, she had wanted to have the baby in the hospital. I think she had wanted to be in Des Moines with Jean, and I guess that just was not in the cards.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. He might still be born at a hospital, but we have to remember Chester's no B. Chester's no B. If anybody has experience delivering babies, it's her father. So, yeah.
So that was our second letter for today.
Yep.
And we have a third one.
Yep. And this comes in at the beginning of July.
Lacona, Iowa, July 3rd, 1945. Dear Jean, for the past 2 days, I have been, much against my will, keeping the office for Daddy. The folks are trying to get the chickens moved, and it has turned out to be quite a job. There are post holes to dig. The fence has to be taken down and rolled up. The posts have to be yanked up and reset. The wire restrung, and then after dark, the chickens will have to be gathered up and taken down there. It is quite a job, but oh, how I hate to have to stay here. After you left Sunday, we put down the rug in my upstairs bedroom and put up the bed. The folks were called out to Milo on an OB case that turned out to be a false alarm, and then later in the evening called out to another threatened miscarriage. I'd hoped they'd get the chickens moved yesterday, but it just couldn't be done, so here I am again today. Yesterday I wrote to Bob in Georgia, to Maida to congratulate her, and my vitamin letter to Lou. Vitamin letter. 1-a-day brand, you know? Bob had forgotten your address and asked for it, so I mailed it to him. I guess you'll hear from him soon.
They still haven't got those chickens moved.
No, they're still moving things around. And now Chester's put her to work at the office in the meantime.
So, and what I'm guessing is that there's is there a phone there? Or did people just stop in?
I think they did have a phone.
I feel like they
definitely
would.
Stop. It's a small town. If something was needed, you could get to the doctor's office within minutes in this town. But yeah, with the doctor, I would imagine there's at least some sort of connection for an emergency, but it was not in use that frequently, especially long distance. They would not be calling. It just wasn't too popular to have phones in these homes at this time period. And I remember, because it's going to come up as late as 47, 48, that when people are moving around, they go to the neighbors to use the phone. There's no phone in the house initially. So it depends on where they are. Him being the doctor, I would think that he did have a phone
I
there.
mean, that's why I figured she probably was in the office to field calls or to he's if you need him, he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the calls are probably going to be in person, though, I would say, at this time period. Because we think about that doctor's office, we sit in the waiting room, right? And then there's all these calls going on. That's not this waiting room. The waiting room is you're in the office and the doctor's out at the farm, and they'll get the communications out there if there's an emergency, if they have to. So this is going to be a different way. Milo's another town in Iowa, so it's sort of like a neighboring town. That's where they're going there. And I love that she calls it the vitamin letter. So 1 a day. I'm going to keep writing my 1-a-day letters over to Lou there. And we confirm Bob is in Georgia as well. So by the time we get to this letter, it's July. And Bob is still in the United States. He's not overseas.
Today, I got the package Lou sent me from England so long ago. It was 2 sets of knitted clothes for the baby, 1 set blue and 1 set white. The sweaters are long-sleeved slipovers, made alike except for the knitted stitch pattern, a little button on each shoulder cuffs on the sleeves. No cuff at the waist. The pants are short-legged. 1 pair, blue, has elastic in the top, and 1 pair, white, has a tasseled drawstring. There is no cuff, but the way it's knitted makes the legs sort of tight-fitting, like the wrists on the pink sweater you knitted. There are 2 pair of white booties. I guess you could not get blue. Made like anklets in that they have a cuff to turn down. The foot part seems quite heavy, while the upper part is thinner. Doubled down like an anklet, it is almost as heavy as the foot part. The only thing is that the booties, in comparison to the suits, are quite small, and I fear the booties will have to be put to use before the baby is big enough for the knitted suits. They are both 100% wool, and just as soft as can be. Lou was proud of them when he sent them, I could tell, and now that I've seen them, I believe he had every right to be. He says, too, that he doesn't care if it's a boy or a girl. It doesn't make any difference to him. However, I just hope you will notice that these are very definitely boy clothes, and not for a girl. So now I hope all the more that it's a boy. I know now, too, that though he says he doesn't care what it's named, he really does want a boy named for him. So he'll definitely be Louis Sidney Graham, Jr. I'm so pleased that he wants him named for him that I'd even name him Algernon. Yeah. I can't,
so sweet.
I can't help but tear up when I see the first mention of the name there, because it's the humility of Lou saying, name him anything, but she just understands that this is what he wants, would be, if it's a son, that he wants the son named for him. But he's too nice to insist, basically, on it. Because when we think about it, the grandkids, one of the big traditions, of course, is going to be to name individuals after the previous generation. And in Lou's name, obviously, we already have Sydney as the middle name, which is Lou's mother's name. We're already in that tradition of naming after the previous generations. But she says, basically, even if his name was Algernon, I would name him Algernon Jr. Because it's not the name. It's that she just wants to give that total honor in life. So we see for the very first time anywhere in the storyline the full name of the son, if the son is born.
I mean, I really do feel like she knew it was a boy.
Yeah.
There was just, you just feel a certain way.
Right.
And there was no way to tell, I guess.
Well, I mean, with Jean, it was really funny. Jean knits a pink sweater. So I guess Jean's like, just in case. Just in case it's a girl. We should have one pink
She's always
thing.
thinking.
Yeah. So it's a baby. It's fine. We'll make this little pink sweater. Everything else is blue. Even like you can only get the white ones because I guess he couldn't find the blue ones. So yeah.
But you know, too, I just the idea of Lou in England shopping for baby clothes.
Yeah, and sending them overseas. Yeah.
That's adorable.
It's really adorable.
It makes me smile so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do know that, so he's been able to get off the base, he's been able to do a little bit of shopping. He sent that over, and we know like that he wants the baby named for him. And that's just,
he really does.
He's really involved in this. It must be very hard for him to be across the ocean.
Yeah.
He'd still have no mail, though. I get his letters. The last one was June 26th. Received it today. He says they've stopped work on the planes again, and the boys spend their time acquiring a tan. They still hope to leave by the 15th, which is 12 days off. I don't expect him before August, and possibly not until August 15th. I don't suppose I need mention it to you, but I'd appreciate your not mentioning to him my going into tears before you, as I did Saturday afternoon. I guess he'll think I'm being baby enough as it is. I found your emery board, and I'll also send along a couple more, just in case, of anything, I guess. We're still crawling over and around boxes on account of the chickens. Dad says, since tomorrow is the 4th and nobody will be in town, that he's going to tear out to the farm for the day, so there'll be nothing done then. But I hope by the 5th or Thursday that we'll be able to get a little done. Darn it, I'd like to get the dirty work done and have a few days to get me into shape, the best possible, before Lou comes home. I'm a mess. Write soon, and hope it won't be too long before you've come down again. It is so much fun to leave you, but so lonesome when you leave. Love, Sweetie, and the folks.
Oh, I'm so sad.
Yeah.
Well, obviously she was talking to Jean and she broke down and started crying.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. Of course. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
I mean, she wants her husband there.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's just talk about real quick. So Chester's going to go out to the farm for a whole freaking day.
A whole day. He's going to
putter
all day. All day. It's a holiday. He's holiday puttering.
No. Chickens.
Get
He's
stuff
gonna
done.
move the chickens.
Lou's going to be home. There's still a war going on.
I don't need to do chickens.
I will wander.
There's this leaf that needs to be photographed in a certain light, and I can only do it with that light.
What if there's a spider? You know?
I must consider this for some time.
I gotta take a lot of lenses out there and take pictures.
He's like, no, I'm just gonna putter. Like, I just, sir, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have to acknowledge here, he's such a naturalist because he just likes to study the natural world, and that's his holiday for him, and he's out there all day. It's the priority aspect that I'm hoping what happened on that day, because this would be the day after the letter is written, that Laura was like, no chickens, because I feel like she would.
Well, he had no problem letting his wife and his pregnant daughter go through this maze of boxes.
Yeah.
He's like, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I need to putter.
Yeah, I need to go look at stuff over here. And yeah, he says he's just gonna take the day off, basically. So and she's an emotional wreck, essentially, for the letter. Jean's
That's
not
probably
there.
why he wants to take a day off. He's like, I can't take Sweetie. She just keeps crying.
A lot of energy here. To be fair to him, yeah. Maybe he's like, I just need a day away from everything. So
he's like, and not the kind of away where I'm getting work done.
No.
I need to be away and just do my own thing.
Yeah.
I need to go Chester over here for a little.
do my Chester thing over that way. So. It's miles away, conveniently. So
poor thing. So she broke down, and that's understandable. And I'm really glad that Jean was there with her.
Oh yeah,
because Chester probably would have been like, there.
Yeah, it's just she gives these lines. You know, if Sweetie started a card writing company at any point in her life, it would have been extremely successful. She gives this line at the end: "It is so much fun to leave you, but so lonesome when you leave." Like, just these are song lyrics that she writes, and she just drops them in these letters everywhere. But we can see the emotional state that she's in at this point. And then for our audience, we do have one more letter today.
Another one.
It does follow about 5 days after this one. This one's from July the 8th.
Lacona, Iowa, July 8th, 1945. Dear Jean, Sunday, and it has been an unbearably long day. It seems though my reason tells me there has been no more than the usual 24 hours in it. Our settling and getting proper living started has been unbelievably slow. We have done some, to be sure, but by no means what I'd like to do. I was 3 days out of this week shoved off into the capacity of office girl, and so I did not get much done. I did, however, get in some good, on the quiet. I believe one more night, or possibly 2 nights' work, will see the end of the appliqué work. I'm amazed at the amount of work to it. I'll probably be still more amazed when the quilting is done. And to save my soul, I don't see how Alice Mackenzie could have done it in 2 weeks. I hold high hopes of having it done by the time Lou gets home, but other than that, I can't even venture a finishing date. Today, the folks went to the farm, and I was here alone, bad for my morale, on a long Sunday, and so I spent a pretty lonesome day. I did a few necessary things like shelling peas, washing lettuce, feed chickens, do dishes, etc. And believe it or not, I took it upon myself to bake a lemon pie. Well, we'll talk about the results later on. My memory has been jogged that Elizabeth's birthday comes on the 23rd of this month, and I have little chance of cards here. If you should be uptown, I'd appreciate your buying a pretty nice card for me to send her. Well, if you haven't seen Mrs. Parkington, we may be able to go to Melcher Saturday night to see it, if you'd like to. Note, I'm assuming you'll come, but then I can't blame you if you don't, since your overtime is counting up so high. I guess I could have put this all on a postcard, but I'd aimed to write a better letter when I started. I've got to walk to the post office, so I'll have to stop and maybe write again later on. Love, Sweetie.
Feels like she's bored.
Yeah, she just wants Jean to be there. And,
Bored and
she's
sad.
This is hurry up and wait. She feels somewhat stuck. And it makes sense that she does. I love her little quip about, like, hey, I made a lemon pie. I'm not sure if it's good yet. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. So she did a little bit. She did some cooking. She's acknowledging Elizabeth's birthday, talking about potentially going to see a movie with Jean. And then she mentions the overtime. And actually, there had been that quip where she called Jean Mrs. Astor in the other letter today. So Jean's doing very well financially. She's doing very, very good, well at her job. So, and she's acknowledging that. But just overall, Sweetie feels a little stuck here in Lacona, especially when she's abandoned for the day because of activity going out to the farm and things like that. But she's holding down the fort. She's holding down the fort.
She's holding down the fort, doing some things. But it's not fun when you're all by yourself, especially for her. Yeah, and it does feel like you said, very hurry up and wait.
Yes,
because she is expecting that Lou is going to be coming.
Right. She mentioned previously the 15th. They think it's going to be about mid-August that he'll arrive. So it remains to be seen if that's actually going to happen. They are trying to get all the troops moving everywhere. The priority, I would say, is in the Pacific. So anybody in Europe that's doing things, it's like, okay, first we got to take care of active stuff over here, and then, they'll make sure everything's arranged on the other side. But definitely the more urgent nature of handling all of where the men are going is going to be on the other side. So, and that's understandable.
Oh yeah.
So they'll just see what happens.
Yeah. But, so the boys just get to work on their tans.
Yeah, right. She mentioned, right. They're just working on their tans. They're done with work at this point.
Which, if anything else, the peace of mind of understanding that he's not in combat at that moment
during this time,
she doesn't have to worry about him.
Right.
He's just he just went over to England to get a tan.
He took a cruise. He got a tan. He went shopping.
He needs to do a little bit of work. He probably enjoyed taking the superchargers out. He probably this is messing with my hands. This is fun. This is exactly what he did. He could have done that in Iowa and Kansas.
Yeah. But it's interesting. But he's not in the Pacific, and it is a relief to her in this stressful time that she knows exactly where he is, and for all things considered, he appears to be perfectly safe where he is at this point. So Now he's just got to make it home. He's got to make it home for the baby to be born, which she's also nervous about because she's very self-conscious of her looks in this time period. So, but that's everything for the letters today. We're moving forward in time. This is episode 40. Episode 43 is the finale of season 1. So if you're listening if you've just started right now and you have things to catch up on, great. Totally not an issue if you're just joining us now and starting with the storyline. But from here on out, I would stress that everybody who's listening really listen to the upcoming episodes that are going to happen, 41, 42, 43, because we're going to keep rolling toward what really does feel like a grand finale of what I'd call Act 1 or Season 1 of Sweetie's story here as we get to the end of World War II and as we get to what happens with her being pregnant. But up to that point, we'll continue the story next week with episode 41. And thank you all for your time. Check out www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.